We go out and I just see this huge big dorsal fin, about 60 k's offshore. A single motor, 140 horsepower, single motor. And that's not kosher. You should, if you go further than 5 nautical miles, you should have a double motor. Anyway, we head out there and I see this big dorsal fin come up and he says, Delfini, Delfini. And I said, no. And I put my mask on, I'm over the side. And he's now screaming at me, no, get back. And I say, vamonos, fuck off. And I got this pod of orcas, 8 of them, swimming around me. They'd caught something. I still couldn't identify what it was. Pieces of flesh, like, and the mum would grab a piece and shake it like, and the calf would come and pull it next to her. I spent 2 hours with these things. And I just think, this is freedom. This is what life should be like.
Have you ever actively sought out challenging yourself, challenging your mindset, your fears? What about the very perception that you have of reality? My guest today has made that his life. Adventurer Andy Coetzee knows what it means to challenge and to beat fear. From swimming alone with a family of killer whales, to free diving in the heart of the sardine run, to fishing in some of the most treacherous places in Africa, and finally to living in townships across South Africa. Andy has lived what it means to challenge perception versus reality. What are you doing to challenge your version of reality? Hopefully this episode forces you to ask that question and prompts you to take action. Please like, share, subscribe, and enjoy. Andy Coetzee, welcome to the Expect Performance podcast. How's it, man?
Hey, look, man. Nice to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure to have you. So, Andy, I reached out to you a couple of weeks ago and I came across a talk that you're giving later this evening, in fact, and then I started to find out more about what you do, the story of your life. I've watched lots of videos and I thought you'd be a great candidate for the show. And when I got to eventually speak to you, I could immediately tell there's a charisma, and you answered the phone, how's it, Andy speaking? And I was, yes, this is Clinton Shum from the Expect Performance podcast. I'd love to have you on. I think you'd be a great fit for my listeners, etc., etc. And then you said, hey, Clinton, that's fantastic, man. Now, I definitely am keen, but, I just have one question to ask before we go any further. I said, what's it? He said, what the fuck is a podcast? And it's such a cool story because I thought, thinking back to that, having subsequently researched the adventures that you've been on, it's a testament from what I've seen to your personality, that sense of adventure, saying yes and then figuring out the details afterwards. And it must have made, that philosophy, if I'm correct, must have made for a very interesting life.
Absolutely. And I think that's the magic ingredient, I think. Mm-hmm. Do it. And the best analogy I can maybe use is, I have an identical twin brother, and we were, in 1974, called up to the military, and I said to him, because I was always the leader. He's 10 minutes older than me, but I initiate stuff. In a sense, I'm going to diverge a little bit. Mm-hmm. Identical twins I'm a clone of him. His DNA is my DNA. Mm-hmm. So for me, there is no closer human being in the world than a identical twin, because it's the same sperm, single sperm, and a split ovary. We develop at the same time in the womb. Cell division takes time, and we develop as two human beings in the same womb. Mm. There is no closer human being than an identical twin. And so, in a sense, he's the one side of the yin and the yang. I'm out there, he's the more conservative one. And I distinctly remember we were doing basics in Kimberley in 74, and the paratroopers came over and they did what they call a glamour jump. And I said to him, Marcus, we're going to become officers and we're going to go to paratroops. And so the analogy is, When you're going to paratroop, you trained and you do all the training before your first jump. Then you've got to stand in the door and jump. Now, you can't say, well, I'm going to try and jump. You either jump or you don't fucking jump.
Yeah.
And so that's the analogy that I've lived my life through. I've always jumped. Jump and make a plan.
Yeah, jump and make a plan.
That's it.
and that jump first, make a plan second, that must have, sure, you must have some stories to tell as far as that's concerned. Is there any particular story over your adventures that you've thought to yourself, maybe I jumped too quickly into that situation?
No, because I think the challenge is do it, and then if it doesn't actually work out, well, that's the challenge. Then make a plan. Then say, how do I fix this?
Yeah.
It's taking limited intelligence or intel or information and using, you can't, this analysis paralysis drives me insane. You've got to take limited risk to say, okay, I'm okay to do this. So I can't think of a specific event that has been too out there.
Yeah.
The only thing I'm really afraid of, and again, this is about risk and reward. The thing I'm really afraid of is domesticity.
Okay.
A picket fence and taking the kids to school in the morning.
Yes.
I can't do that.
That's not your vibe.
That's not my vibe. That's what I will run. I will run to the other side of the world for, is domesticity. I can't do that.
Why do you think that is? Because I love adventurers. I mean, I used to watch Bear Grylls till the cows came home. I used to be a scout when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So the outdoors for me it's a non-negotiable in terms of what I want to spend my time doing. And so I've seen a lot of these adventurers through different forms, etc. And it's the one thing that I've always thought of, if I had to do that, it comes at a cost. And I think that you've got to be a certain type of person to be able to do that on an ongoing basis, because everything, has a cost. And at the same time, as the adventures become more and more wild, I would imagine that then domestic life becomes more and more mundane. And then do you find yourself as an adventurous spirit and an adventurer in a chase for the next thrill, so to speak?
Yes, that's definitely the high that you get. I've got a distinct advantage over a lot of other people. I have a twin brother, and we do a lot of stuff together. I've done lots by myself, but I also do them with him. I'll give him a call. For instance, we ran a commercial mountain biking event. It was a 7-day called Josie to Cozy. And the way it started was, my brother's in Uruguay because he's gatvol, he wants to go and look for other opportunities. So he heads out to Uruguay. And I got this bee in my bonnet to say, man, maybe I should ride from Johannesburg down to Cozy Bay, because I spent many years of my life at Cozy Bay. So I say to my son, who was now 16, 17, I said, Tom, you want to ride with me? He said, nah, man, I'm dating this girl. And so I say, cool, no problem. I'll phone Marcus. So I phone Marcus in Uruguay. I say, Marcus, you want to ride from Joburg to Cozy? He says, yeah, but when do we start? I said, get your ass here. He jumps on a plane 3 days later in Joburg. I give him my other mountain bike and off we go. So
just like that?
Just like that.
No training, off we go.
No, he'd been riding bicycles there. I've always ridden bicycles. I've done, so we had the kit. We did another one. You know what a fat bike is? It's a bicycle with a big fat tires. You can ride on the beach.
Yes.
It's like a 4x4 on a beach. So I say to Marcus a few years later, in 2014, I say, and he lives down in Georgia. He builds decks and stuff. Phone him and I said, Marcus, do you want to ride from Pomen to Belen? Now, Pomen is near Bazaruta, and Belen is about 500 km south. He says, I know where Pomen is, but why Belen? So I said, because it rhymes with Pomen. So he says, cool. I said, but there's only one caveat. You can only take a fishing rod in a plastic bag. He says, I'm in. And off we went.
Yeah.
And so those are the kind of things that I'm fortunate enough to have that human body that's exactly his mind. If I'm tired and I know he's just as tired as me, physiologically both the same. I don't have to compensate for, let's say, a girlfriend or a wife or a friend who's maybe shorter, fatter, not as fit as me. I know he's there. He's got my back, and he knows I've got his back. And that is what has inspired me to do more and more of.
Yeah.
With him and without him. I'll send him pictures and I'll say, or a voice note. Marcus, what you doing this morning? What's the traffic like? Okay, bye. And I get going, what the fuck, where the fuck are you? No, I'm sitting in the Seychelles, okay, bye. So we have this just, so...
This banter back and forth.
The banter back and forth. But a specific adventure that I did, I get a thrill with them all, and yeah, and it's not just about, I think in life, you can recreate yourself, you can reinvent yourself all the time. I've done thousands of things. And people say, but how do you do it? Well, as Joe Dispenza says, if you can think it, it becomes your self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yes.
And I firmly believe that.
Yeah, and that's something that I've a saying that it comes up where, for example, on your Instagram bio, the essence of the talk that you're giving a little later this evening, energy follows thought. I'm assuming that's in line with Joe Dispenza and his philosophies and what he preaches. But can you give me an example of how you've been able to manifest this in your own life, in your own personal capacity?
Okay, so way back, I'll work retrospectively.
Perfect.
I went to live on an island in Seychelles, North Island, for 2 months by myself. I was doing environmental work for a company I was working for, Wilderness Safaris. So I'm there by myself, and then, this is in 96, 97. A few years later, I get my brother. They needed someone over that Y2K New Year, where everyone thought all the computers are going to crash, all that bullshit. So I say, no one wanted to go out there from Wilderness. So I get hold of Marcus. I say, Marcus, do you want to go out and live on North Island? Because he'd known what I'd done this. He says, cool, I'm in. So he says, I want to take my son, who's 14-year-old. It's cool. So they go out there for 3 months over that Y2K period, November through to January. And I was speaking to Mark the other day. I said, Marcus, where did that phrase, energy follows thought, come from? And he says, I'll tell you exactly where it went bang in his head. He's now fishing, because you've just got a fishing rod, some lures and things, and you've got to catch fish, you've got to, have a bag of rice and stuff like that. And his son is now looking at him fishing. And as Mark casts, Henry thinks in his head, his son Henry says, he thinks, this is our last lure. If we lose it, if Dad loses it, how are we going to catch fish? And as Mark casts, the line goes, and Henry goes, I knew it. And so Marcus looks at Henry and he says, what do you mean you knew it? He said, I was thinking that if the line snapped, that we're going to lose this, we don't have any more lures. So Marcus says, okay, Hen, now let's think about this. If you keep thinking negative thoughts, that becomes your reality. So let that be a lesson to you at 14 years old. Change your thought pattern. That will then change the outcome of your life. And Henry has used that. And Mark has used that. And I've used that, but retrospectively, I've been thinking, I've been doing that all my life. There was a book. Louise Hay wrote a book many years ago. And she was I think she was a self-help kind of author. And I remember reading it, and she said, if you can think about the way you want your life, visualize your life, that becomes your life then. And that was like in the late 80s. She's now dead. And then a mate of mine, Gareth Pickering, he says to me, Andy, have you read this book by Joe Dispenza? So I said, no, send it to me. And then I'll start reading that book, and I think this is the reality of life. We can live mundane lives and out of fear not want to do things because we paralyze ourselves with fear and analysis. just jump out the door, man.
Yeah.
Jump out the door and have a laugh.
So I've done a couple of free dives, with a mutual friend of ours down at Allawal.
Yeah.
And the first time we did shark diving, open water shark diving, it was an invaluable life lesson for me because, the obvious things, sharks are dangerous, they're man-eaters, and you don't get in the water with a shark, blah-de-blah-de-blah, the normal story. And you're cruising out on the boat and everything's lacquer, and then all of a sudden, first shadow comes past, next shadow, next fin, tail, off it. And then all of a sudden, everything in my brain, every fiber in my being is saying, there's not a fuck you getting in that water. You will die if you go in that water. Yeah. And it is such an important skill to be able to override that and then take action despite all those negative thoughts. Because, that is a function of our brain that's enabled us to survive over thousands and thousands and thousands of years. But now it serves a different purpose, And when I got into the water, eventually I was like, no, I haven't come all this way to be that oak that stays on the boat. I'm not going to be that guy. And I promise you, drop into the water, take the leap off the boat, and then the moment I was fully immersed in water and I was underwater, I'd never felt unsafe at all. I felt completely safe in that water the entire time that we were there. There was not one single time when I thought, oh, geez, better flipping, act inconspicuous here, It was wonderful, man. Yeah. And it just shows, it's such a valuable lesson to learn that a lot of the stuff that we tell ourselves is holding ourselves back from challenging and pushing your own boundaries and how you perceive the world, and how the world interacts around you. And that nature is such a wonderful way to teach us that, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. So that whole shark diving thing is, there is some controversy to say, are you conditioning them? Are you habituating them to be fed by humans and then they're going to bite you one day? And there's that side of the coin. The other side of the coin is the value that to change the perception of people's viewpoint of sharks. Mm. It's invaluable. I've done that, I can't tell you how many times, and I've taken people who can't even swim. There was an Indian lady, fantastic businesswoman. She developed these, the noodles. She converted, that Indian company went into Nigeria and converted people into eating not fufu, which is cassava, but to eat noodles, that ramen noodle, that 2-minute noodle stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like a $9 billion industry in Nigeria. Mm. She was the key player in that. So Ritika, she says to me, Andy, what are some of the adventures you can do? I said, come with me. What are we going to do? So I said, we're going to go and dive with sharks. He said, but I can't swim. I said, don't worry. I'll keep you afloat. You'll be in a wetsuit, you can't sink. All you got to do is breathe. She gets into the water. When people initially can't swim, they do this with their hands.
Yeah.
And I said, like I saw you do, you put your hands under your armpit and just float. She says that was probably the most liberating moment in her life to that point. She said, because everything was told me, as you said, get out the water, I'm going to get eaten. It was freedom. Mm. And so that's surely what adventure and pushing the boundaries should mean to you. Yeah. I get a sense of freedom. If I've overcome a fear of whatever it is, not domesticity, but all the other stuff, that's what keeps you alive, man.
Yes. Yeah, okay, so two-parter here. First of all, what do you actually do for a living right now? What pays the bills?
So I do numerous things. I take people on a sardine run. So I take groups of people for 5 days at sea, and we base ourselves out of the hole in the wall. And that for me is, again, it's showcasing that nature is this wonderful tool which we can use and not abuse. So we take people out into the sardine run, and sometimes the viz is lousy and we don't get in because you're going to get eaten. But there are bait balls of sardines, millions of sardines, and there's sharks, dolphins, gannets, whales. It is just this carnage of predators eating these poor little sards. And it's a spectacle that every South African should enjoy. And We don't. Why? Because of that inherent fear. There's going to be sharks there. Well, really? Get a life. I just can't get my head around. And I get overseas people as well as South Africans to come with me. And it's all the actions. Sharks are not going to eat humans. They want to eat sardines. That's what everything is eating. And just to go down and dive, free dive down. I don't take scuba. It's too much drama. Free dive down and you see gannis diving down, whales coming past you. I mean, last year we filmed the first time of a humpback, what they call lunge feeding. Normally the humpies feed in the Antarctic, and they migrate up this way, males following females, and the mums give birth up this because it's nice and warm and they don't feed. It's never been documented. It's been the odd guy saying, man, I thought I saw them feeding. This thing opens up its mouth literally 1 meter from me, and I've got the clients in a half circle like this, in a breeches like this, eating a whole mouthful of sardines. And I just look and I think, oh shit, my clients are dead now. And it just goes into the water, and I stick my head above the water and I say, hey, are you guys around? Are you alive? And they go, yeah, the best fucking experience ever. They'll never not forget that in their entire lives.
Yeah.
We had orcas feeding right in front of us. Right in front of us. And so,
Okay, so yeah, so I wanted to ask you about that, because the killer whale,
yeah.
you know,
So
they are the kings of the sea. They eat great whites now. You know, that was all over the news.
Predator.
Apex predator.
They're the boss.
So surely you don't get into the water with an orca.
So it's called a killer whale because it kills whales. It doesn't kill humans. If it was a killer human, do they call it killer human? It's an orca. It's a big dolphin. And again, this inherent fear that this thing's going to eat you. There is not one recorded incidence of an orca even attempting to bite or harass a human. In captivity, yes. But they're not in captivity.
Yeah.
We jump into the water. Those things are so clever. They look at you like this and they go, I know what you're about. And again, I think it's the energy that you put out. If, for instance, let's go back. All predators in the open ocean have an ability to pick up energy, electronic impulses, all that sort of stuff. If you're going to act like bait, you're going to be bait. If you're going to froth around on the surface, which bait does to try and get away from the predator, guess what? The predator can come eat you. If you're chilled, the energy you put out is what you get back.
Yeah.
That energy, that predator's going to come and look at you. Why is this thing not swimming away from me? Why is it so chilled? I'm not getting any flight response from this thing. It's not food. Because all my food flees.
Yeah.
Done. I've had wonderful experience in Baja, Mexico. I'm by myself. I hire a boat and I want to go and experience this. This is Marlin Run off Baja, Mexico, the Pacific side. And I hire a boat for $350 and I say, let's go, Marlin. He says, no problem. And that's about it, the sum total of his English and my sum total of Spanish. We go out and I just see this huge big dorsal fin, about 60 k's offshore. Single motor, 140 horsepower, single motor. And that's not kosher. You should, if you go further than 5 nautical miles, you should have a double motor. Anyway, we head out there and I see this big dorsal fin come up and he says, Delfini, Delfini. And I say, no. And I put my mask on, I'm over the side. And he's now screaming at me, no, get back. And I say, vamonos, fuck off. And I've got this pod of orcas, 8 of them, swimming around me. They'd caught something. I still couldn't identify what it was. Pieces of flesh, like, and the mum would grab a piece and shake it like, and the calf would come and pull it next to her. I spent 2 hours with these things. And I just think, this is freedom. This is what life should be like. And by the same token, if there'd been a whole bunch of people, it might have spoiled it for me because it was just me and the orca. They don't want to eat me, they want to eat me, but they're going to eat me. What are they going to eat me for? They're eating things already.
Yeah.
I'm just swimming part of the pod.
Yeah.
That is the kind of life that I want to live, and I want to share that with people as well. So I'm taking a trip back to Mexico in October, in 25, and hopefully we'll see the orcas there. But we get them on our coast in any case.
We do?
Yeah, of course we do.
Are they becoming more and more common?
No.
Along our coastline?
I don't think they're more common. I just think the advent of adventure cameras allows people to see them.
So they're just more...
So, for instance, like on the sardine run, for the last 2 years, we've seen orcas. And so now they think, Coetzee's got a direct line with the orcas. I'm just lucky. Or maybe it's the energy I put out. I don't know. But the fact is that over June and July on the Wild Coast, there are lots of boats. Operators bringing tourists, bringing people to come and see the sardine run. Now, the orcas eat common dolphins. The common dolphins follow the sardines, so the orcas follow the common dolphins, which follow the sardines. So in time, you're going to find them. But it also means that over that 2-month period, there are 20, maybe 30 boats out between 5 and 15 kilometers offshore. And everyone's got eyes on the water. Out of the sardine time, those orcas are probably still there, but no one's out there. No one's looking for them.
Yeah.
So I think they're there all the time.
Okay. So that was question number 1. What do you do for a living? Second question. What do you do to feel alive?
I plan adventures. So I'll give you one. So because I've had lots of experience doing sea turtle research, having run lodges, having dealt in environmental stuff, I'm going to bring 2 things. A mate of mine who makes gin in Luanda, he gets hold of me and he says, "Hey, Coetzee, mate, there's a river I've just went past and it looks like it's got lots of fish in it. Would you mind coming up there? Just have a look, because I'm a very experienced fisherman." So I say, "Cool, Wayne." He says, "Yeah, like 2 weeks, 3 weeks." I said, "Wayne, I can't give you an assessment in 2 weeks. I have to be there for a minimum of 2 months, and probably 3. "Yeah, but where are you going to live?" I said, "Live on the beach." I said, "But I'm bringing my twin brother." So last year, November, December, January, we spent 3 months on the beach, living, and we caught fish. We were assessing what the fishing potential is. Is there a fishery here worth developing or not? And so that's what I do. So I said to the guys, "I'm not going here for mahala. You give me some money because you feed me and I'll pay my own ticket. And my boat will come up and he'll pay his own ticket. But this is the kind of stuff that I like doing." And I said to Marcus, he said, "Hey, I can only come for a month, man. I've got a business to run," and he builds decks down in the Cape. So I said, "Cool." So when we'd been there 3 weeks, I say, "Marcus, you want to stay longer?" And I just see his eyes globe and he says, "Yeah, more." We spent 3 months there. So I got invited to come and help catch turtles. So I've done many years of sea turtle research. And so, the guys here, Coetzee's got a bit of experience putting satellite tags on and flipper tagging them and putting acoustic tags on turtles and doing the normal biometric system. So the guys from African Parks up in Bazaruta, a guy called Evan, we call him Ivan. Ivan knew. Anyway, so Evan gets hold of me via a friend who I'm helping with this talk tonight. The funds go to the turtle research. So Nats is the official turtle researcher, but I've got 35 years. He's not even 26, but I've got 35 years of turtle experience behind me. So Nats can't make it. So she says, "Hey, maybe Andy can go." So she gets Evan to get in contact with me, so I go and help them catch turtles. So now Evan, I've done it for 2 years running now. So Evan, at the end of the second season, he says, "Oh, when I leave here, I'm going to Australia." And I go, "What are you going to do in Australia?" So "I'm going to learn how to catch dugongs." So I said, "Why?" He says, "Well, we're going to try and put satellite tags on our dugong population here." I put my hand up. I said, "Evan, I'm coming." He said, "Oh, you can't come to Australia." I said, "When you come back and catch the dugongs, my hand's up. I'm going to help you do it." "Yeah, but you're a bit of an old man." "Fuck you, Evan. I've got 40 years of life experience. What the fuck do you know about dugongs?" And he looks at me, says, "Point taken." And that's what I did in July.
This July?
This last July,
Yeah.
It was the first time in Africa that dugongs were caught and satellite tags put on them.
What is a dugong?
Okay, so a dugong is a sea cow. It's the old mythical mermaid.
Okay.
It's got a fish tail. You know what a manatee is?
Yes.
So it's the equivalent of a manatee, but it's a different genus, but it's got a fish tail, not that round paddle tail. Mm-hmm. And it grazes like a manatee, but it grazes seagrass. They call them sea cows, or not a sea koi, not a hippo, but a proper sea cow.
Got you, yeah.
And so there's about 200 to 250 on the east coast of Africa. That's it. And Australia has the largest population. So the Aussies developed the technique of catching them. So initially they would throw a cast net over them, but now you've got this 400 kilogram dugong thrashing around and they drown. This is many years ago. So they developed different techniques. So it's called dugong rodeo. So I can't show you any footage of it, but I can explain graphically what happens. So you've got two boats, and you got to spot a plane, and it looks where the dugongs are, and you talk into the plane, and they say, okay, there's a pair of them on the shallows, move over this way, and then you get 3 jumpers or 4 jumpers hanging onto the gunnel. The skipper's driving flat out now. You're chasing this thing. It's taking a breath, because it breathes atmospheric oxygen. And on its 4th or 5th breath, you jump over the side, and you grab it around its waist now. And you got another, that's the primary jumper. He gets in, and he just holds his breath, and he immobilizes the tail, because it's got these small little pectorals, can't swim fast. He immobilizes the tail, can't swim. Then the 3 other jumpers jump on, and you put a noose around his tail, and then the catch boat is moved away, and the support boat comes in. And then you constrain it with a net. And you literally it's constrained for 5, maybe 7 minutes, done. You take a skin sample, put the strap around his tail, put a bolt through, tighten it up, everything else is done. So my role there was to either be secondary skipper and also to control the movement of staff and tools and things on the catch boat, on the capture boat, and film it. So I've got some just amazing stuff where, the Aussies developed it, and so it's like, cowboy stuff.
Yeah.
And you're charging along, and as the guy jumps, I go over the side, and I'm under the water, and I'm filming all this stuff, and it's chaos. But that's the kind of stuff that I love doing. It's never been done before.
Yeah.
So it's because it's so sensitive in terms of viewership. Bunny huggers are going to shit in pants if they see us, controlling. But there's no other way. If you want the science to give you some answers, that's what you have to do to attach the satellite.
Yeah.
What else are you going to do?
So moving on to dry land now. I watched some series of you running around in the Kalahari and the Kalahari in a loincloth with the sand.
Yes. So I worked in a television company, a production company for a while, because of my fishing experience, and I don't know. So you brainstorm because you need ideas all the time. It's a horrible mistress. You need ideas to come off a bit. I think like these podcast things. You guys need info. It's just consumes in 2 hours. Gone. Next one. That's how it's a consumer industry.
Yeah.
So Pete, who owned the company, he says, "Coetzee, come and work with me. We can do a series of stuff." So now I've got a lot of cultural knowledge. I've lived in and worked doing consumer insights in the township all over the country.
Really, eh?
All over the country. There's probably not a township that I haven't slept in and been in. That's another. I'll tell you about.
We'll come back to that.
We'll come back to that one. So I say, Pete, what about we could do some Bushmen, and then we could do like a Zulu initiation series, and we can do like it's called Andy's Africa. Like let's do something like that. He says, okay, cool. It was premature. It was in 2010. The television viewership didn't want that then. They might take it now, but now I'm old, past my prime. So I said to Pete, man, we'll go to the Bushmen and I'll just roam around with a nai on, it's called a nai, the little loincloth, and I'll eat and do what the Bushmen, what they do. So there was a television ad. With Skalk Burger in a plane, and he throws a rugby ball out and it hits a Bushman on the head.
I remember that advert.
Yes. So that little Bushman is called Toppie. And Toppie was the son of David Kruiper, who was the main character in Gods Must Be Crazy.
Yes.
That famous movie by Jamie Ace. So we go to Askam, where we hear Toppie's now TV star because he made the TV ad with Skalk Burger, and remember they played rugby and they kicked it through those wooden posts and stuff like that. So Toppie's a TV star. So I go up there and I find Toppie, and he says, "Ja, lekker, ons gaan saamwerk." So I said, "Toppie, ek soek 2 manne." So now I walk up and down the road and I'm looking for a genotypical Bushman, with the high cheekbones, short, skinny, those slant sort of mongoloid eyes. So I walk and they're actually selling trinkets. So I said, Toppie's with me. So I said, Toppie, what's that also now? His name is Mr. Rev. So I said, hy moet saam met ons kom. And Mr. Rev happened to be a park ranger in the Kalahari for like 25 years. He was an old bailey now, just selling trinkets on the side of the road. So Mr. Rev and Topi and myself go into the bush. It was a fantastic experience. I had the camera crew with me, and now I'm walking like they walked. But they've also got soft. That life of living the deep traditional Bushman life, it's extinct. It isn't anymore. And that was that came to me when I'm now, we're eating berries, we're eating tsamas, those melons, and they got a digging stick. And I remember one specific, so we're digging, we've got this guy on, and old James Boone is a very good cameraman right now. He's filmed Survivor and things. Anyway, he's filming from behind us. He's watching us digging like dogs. But now our balls are hanging out this side. So I look over my shoulder and James says, Jesus, Andy, I can't film this, but I can't anymore. So that didn't make the cut. But the fact is that we were digging for tubers and things like that. But it was just wonderful to do that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
Come
back to the townships, yeah.
Yeah, so the township stuff, a very innovative mate of mine, Mike Boone, he developed these sort of what we call barrier breaking, transformation kind of stuff. Go to a big company like a bank and take their managers into the townships. You first do, that's where this lady who I'm doing the talk with, she worked with me as a classroom facilitator, and then I would take them for 2 days into the townships. And I did it all over the country. All the bank managers for FNB, for West Bank, for Standard Bank. So I would go to Kalahari, which is a township in Kimberley, or Kanyamazan in Nelspruit, any township. And we'd take groups of 20, 25 of them. We'd take their watches and their cell phones and their money away. And we'd give them $60 to live on. And they would have to catch a taxi. We would organize homes where they would sleep in. They would have to feed themselves. And some of the instructions I'd give them, I'd say, guys, here's your $60. That has to last you from now until tomorrow when we meet again. Aren't you going to be here with us? I said, I'm not holding your hand. This is your country. I'm just going to guide you where you have to go, give you instructions where you've got to go. So if you want to dope it out all now, be my guest. Guess what? You're going to have to walk. And the lesson then was to teach people what the average South African, the vast majority, have to live on. They have to choose. Do I catch a taxi, or do I have a quart of beer and then walk to work? Or what do I buy? Half loaf of bread and a mass, or do I have shesinyama with the limited resource that I have? So those are some of the lessons that we would allow them to learn. But again, you set up these kind of, in a sense, that was their adventure. We take them completely out of their comfort zone. I've got whiteys and black oaks. Now we go down to, for instance, I'll use an example. In Johannesburg, we would go to Jeppe Hostel. There are 15,000 young men that live at Jeppe Hostel. It's renowned for its violence. That's the perception and the conditioning that we have as South Africans. That's where the Zulus necklaced the Xhosa speakers, the Ngata against ANC in those conflict years of our country, 70s, 80s, and 90s. So that's all in the people's heads. So the non-Zulu speakers, the Sothos, or the Vendas, or the Shangans, they shit scared to go in there. But now you get there at like sundown. Now there's just hundreds of men streaming in from the taxi ranks and the train stations going to Jeppe Hostel. And I'd stand them out and I'd say, guys, what's that out there? That's a hostel. Hey, who's been into a hostel? Some Zulu oaks might have been in there. So, guys, let's go in and have a look. No shit, we can't go in there. I said, why not? What are you afraid of? No, but the Zulus kill people if you go in there. I said, really? I think we should go in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One group. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Second group. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, my daughter, Sondelan. And now it's set up that they're going to go and visit the oaks in the hostels. These oaks would take them. I said, you better get to know your guide's name, because if you lose him, you're going to get stuck in there for the rest of your life. And now it's going, what's your name? What's your name? That was just, you're playing with emotion.
Yeah.
Conditioning versus reality. After they spent 45 minutes, and now walking around taking pictures of the oaks in their rooms and things, and that's dingy. It's only men. Now we've got women managers as well. They're in there as well. Yes, and I mean, with the eyes of this big. A little bit later, we'd ping them down to a fire. Now there's a whole bunch of a dance group. And the course of the leader, he's clapping his hands in his little fire there. And the oaks start dancing. And then I'd say to the Gosa, when the oaks come, as the main head honcho of the group would come in, I'd say, Nako, and he'd see him. And then when all our clients would sit there, we give them some beers, and now the oaks watching the oaks do a couple of numbers, do some Zulu dance. Now the oaks have settled down a bit, they've got a beer, they've survived sitting in the hostel. And then the course or the leader, he would come out and he'd grab the main oak's hand and he'd then bring him out in front of his colleagues now and try and teach him how to dance like a Zulu. And all his colleagues and all the other oaks looking would laugh at these oaks because they had no idea.
Yeah.
You know, imagine trying to learn how to do a waltz when you don't know how to waltz. And the oaks would fall all over themselves and everyone would laugh like hell. And that was such a barrier-breaking incident. So now the boss has made a tit of himself. Then he'd say, yeah, you us must come as well. Then the dance group would go and grab 4 or 5 oaks at a time and they would teach him how to dance. They didn't want to go in 2 hours before. I had to pull them by the ears to get them out of there. They said, can't we stay here all night? The oaks have been doping, they've been dancing. It was such a transformation in 2 hours.
Wow.
That's the kind of stuff that's... People were terrified to come on an immersion. It was called an immersion, to immerse yourself in. Because I don't tell them anything. They say, where are we going? I said, I don't know. Where are we going to go? We'd set them up like right in the beginning. You'd say, how are we going to get to town? I don't know. Should we try and catch a taxi? And my taxis are hiding around the corner. And I go, yo, how do you catch a taxi? And there'll be some local oak who would know how to catch it. Oh, you go to town, you've got to put your finger up like this. Or you've got to go like this, or whatever the story is. Different signs, different places. I say, let's try that. So they'd go like this. And as soon as they went like this, my taxi would come around the corner. I'd say, hey, Oaks, there's some taxis. And they'd pull up, and the Oaks would jump in. I'd say, come, come, come. You know, like this is what you get into a taxi quickly. And I'd slam the door, and I'd say, bye. And the Oaks would look at me. What do you mean, I'm coming with us? No. You said you want to go to town, so off you go. I'm buying my toot. Mushayeli, driver, go. And the driver was a bugger off. And the Oaks are looking at, and I'm just standing inside the road going, bye, guys. You smockle with the Oaks' heads because it's all about perception versus reality. It was life-changing for people. I had people on those what we call immersions that were imminently immigrating. They came to me afterwards, tears in their eyes, and said, tears in their eyes saying, you've changed our view of South Africa. And that's my contribution to my country. I love my country. I fought for my country. I love my country. And there's another exercise I want to explain. So at the end of the second day with me, they've probably got some of them 10 rand, some of them, they maybe, in those years we'd give them between 40 and 60 rand. Some of them had no money left and some of them had 30 rand left. So now they're all managers, they're all bankers. And I say, okay, good guys. So how much money have you guys got left? I got 5 rand. All the oaks with 5 rand and less stand over here. All the oaks between 5 and 15 rand over here. And all the oaks with 15 to 30 rand over here. So who would you like at your team? Because you all started with the same amount of money. Piet Pompies here has got bugger all money. And Johan over there has got 30 rand. So who's the good budgeter here? Who knows how to work with money? And you all come from the same department, the same bank. Another. And I say, cool, so you've only got limited resources now. Now, what you have to do is you've got to go over to the taxi rank. You've got 1.5 hours to 2 hours. The 3 of you in groups of 3. You've got to go and make a friend with someone in the taxi rank, get to go home with them, and come back here and tell us where you went, what that person does, and how you got there and back. We can't do that. I said, well, you can be the first of 20,000 people who have failed. Come sit on the pavement here with me. Now you're putting his ego at risk now.
Yeah.
So then I say, pay yourself up. So the immediate knee-jerk reaction is pay yourself up with a blackout.
Yes.
Now watch this shit go down. And the oaks also got dark glasses on. I say, guys, the lesson here, and I'm preempting this, the lesson here is what you give out is what you get back. Mm. Cool. Just remember that. Off they go in groups of 3. I would always pay. There was always a safety issue. Not that it was unsafe, but just so that the woman felt a little bit safer. I'd say, ladies, 3 ladies are not going to go together. I'm going to split yourselves amongst a group of men. Just, it makes them feel a bit better, makes the guys feel a bit better. Anyway, they come back and you'd have some amazing stories. So they had to walk over there, and then you'd see them. They'd go, hi, hands crossed, like, because they're strangers now, like they got to walk to someone and say, I want to go home with you. How's it, man? I want to go home with you. Full circle. And I say, guys, what you give out is what you get back. If you're getting rejection upon rejection upon rejection, change your tactic. Then get the black hawk to go and ask. But now, if in the townships, the locals are suspicious of black hawks. White hawks are like royal game. If a white hawk walks up and I'd give them an example. I'd say, if I walked up to Koko and I say, oh, morning, Koko, where are you going? Can I help you with your bags? I'm in Soweto. Would you mind if I helped you and I can just find out about your life, where you grew up? Yeah, Danam, come follow me. Off they go. But I've got dark glasses on, it's a barrier. When I meet a stranger, I want to see his eyes. Those are the kind of things that you would debrief it afterwards. So those become those lessons that we would engage with bank managers and other people. We did stuff for Anglo-American, for Glencore, I can't tell you how many thousands of people we did. And that's adventure.
Yeah.
Because you change, the road is, things are changing all the time.
The reality is not what you first thought it to be.
Exactly.
So what about examples in your own personal life, in your adventures, where reality hasn't matched up to your perception? Is there a time, place where you got it wrong in terms of perception, and then you went to that place and then it completely changed your perspective?
No, I'm not sure. Again, it depends on how you start. It's about expectation.
So when you go to a place, you start with zero expectation? Is that the idea?
I try that. So the analogy I will use, you might find it flawed, but it works for me. And you heard me when you said, can you get me something to drink? I said, I just want water. Don't fuck it up with anything. Because the expectation, if I'm in the tropics and it's steaming hot and I want cold water, if I don't get it, I'm disappointed. If I'm expecting to get warm water, I'm never disappointed.
Yeah.
I can't fault the logic. So just give me water. That's what comes out the tap. Give it to me. I'm sorry, I don't have cold water. I don't want cold water. I don't want hot water. I just want water. So if I always have to drag a cool box now to ensure that I've got cold beers or cold drinks, fuck it. That's just msebe. That's just aggravation.
Yeah.
And that's about managing my expectations. I drink warm water. That's it.
So when you go to a place in your adventures,
yes,
to try and immerse yourself as quickly in the environment as possible, you go there with as little expectations as possible.
Yeah, I try that. So we all have hope, as a hope and expectation. I think, you hope we see an orca, we hope we see a whale, we hope, and the expectation is that you will. But actually, the analogy I use on the sardine run is it's just Mama Ocean. What she gives us, she gives us.
Yeah.
We might see X, Y, Z. And if we do, we deal with it as it comes. But I can't guarantee you anything. I can't tell you, drive the Kruger Park, we're definitely going to see lions and elephants and things.
Yeah.
Let's just see what life gives us. Let's go with that expectation. I will embrace whatever comes my way. And if nothing comes my way, make a plan.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to.
It's just that's the way that you live.
Yes.
That's your essence.
Yes.
Has there been times in the bush, deserts, jungles, in the ocean, where you felt, okay, this could go one of two ways really quickly. This could go really bad really quickly.
Yeah.
Can you give me an example?
Two examples, one terrestrial, one marine. The terrestrial one, we were shooting it was the first, I told you it was on the television in the movie back then. So we're shooting what they called Safari Live, which is a live safari. So I had John Varty, who was like a leopard researcher. He's part owner of Londolozi, and also done lots of movies and stuff. So JV and myself, this is just before we go live. We tried to capture a leopard, so JV cannot talk about a leopard. But the leopard researcher puts the cage with the baited trap, puts it too low. And JV says, hey man, that thing's too low. So the guy said, nah, I've caught leopard here before. And blow me down. He gets 2 lionesses in the cage, in a leopard cage, which is a smallish cage, smaller than a lion cage. So now it's probably as high as a light, maybe 1.5 meters off the ground. And now the trapdoor's closed, and now these lionesses are properly pissed off. So JV says, nah, Andy, let's just drive your buck here. And I know how the lock of the gate works, and we'll just push a stick, and then you can push the stick, and I'll push it down. Now we've got lionesses 50 centimeters from us, growling and frothing and clawing, and JV and I are trying to push this little gate open, and the window's half open because you don't want the window fully open because then the lion's going to jump into your bucky. And I'm thinking this can go properly tits up. If that lioness, if we do get it open, she's going to jump straight into that bucky, smash the window, and she's going to maul us properly. And after like 6-7 minutes of prodding, I said, JV, we're being stupid here, but let's just get the vet, and they'll dart him. He looks at me like he says, yeah, I think you're right. And I just remember, it was what, at a certain point you call it, it's called the pucker effect.
Yeah, what's that?
It's when your asshole goes like this. Okay?
Yeah.
And then the marine one was actually this last sardine run. Is chaos. We've probably got, I don't know, 200 meters of bait ball. And it's just, there is shit going everywhere. There's sharks. I can't tell you how many sharks are. And the bait ball's not static. It moves as the predators push them. And so I've got my clients in here, and we're all moving, we're all static. We're trying to take the pics where we can. I'm saying, guys, stay close to me because the shit's going to go down here. There's sharks everywhere. And the sharks, or the bait ball eventually surrounds us. Now the mackerel, they weren't sardines, they were mackerel, but they also migrate up there. They're now using us as refuge. And the sharks were coming past, and I'm giggling hysterically. I just think this is the greatest thing on earth, but I'm thinking, I maybe just need to look after my clients a bit. I'm just taking pictures like, and I'm insane. That guy say, why are you laughing? And I said, fuck, isn't this amazing? So Sean, he's been with me in Sardine a couple of times, he's an ex-fighter pilot. He says, Coetzee, I think we're to get the fuck out of Dodge here. But so I said, okay, swim backwards, guys, swim backwards. And we eventually just slowly extricated ourselves. But the sards are behind us, the mackerel behind us, and the sharks are coming past us. It could have gone wrong, but then deal with that.
Yeah.
It's a philosophy of, I don't want to make decisions based on fear. Mm. Fear kills dreams, but the converse, dreams kill fear.
Dreams kill fear. Yes, I like that. That's very powerful, hey?
Yeah.
And it's one thing to say, it's another thing to live it.
Yeah.
Because it is an easy thing to pay lip service to something like that, but for it to be part of your life on a daily basis,
yeah,
to overcome that fear.
Another example, we had the young girl who is the beneficiary of this talk tonight, Nat Santos. I spent many years helping her doing turtle research, and we've done lots of shit together. But it's her birthday, 2021, and we're out at Aloe, and we're doing a tiger dive. Now, there's 6-7 of us. Her boyfriend's there, so a whole bunch of other accomplished freedivers. And we're looking for tigers. And 2 tigers come in. They're shy. Tiger sharks are shy. They're not aggressive. They come in and they always sneak up behind you. So you look behind you, and there she is. They come around, and all of a sudden, gone. And I go, what's happening? Something's happening. And there was a reasonable good viz, probably 15-meter viz. There, out of the gloom, comes this big great white. Now, we're not in a cage now. Mm. We're just looking for tigers. And the one girl, Alex, says, I always wondered if I saw a great white, if I'd recognize it. She said, there wasn't a doubt in my mind. We all came close together, and she just circled us like this. So close from here to your left. I pulled my camera back. That's how close she came.
What?
This close. With that mouth, the mouths always hang open like this. Mm. And she wasn't aggressive. I looked at her posture. She was just, hey, what's happening here? I'm the boss here. And she just ran past us. And we spent she did about 3 or 4 circles around us. And then I put my hand up and I called the skipper over, Cassie. You probably went out with Cassie when you dived.
Yes.
Yeah, Cassie. So I called Cass over and he thinks, there's a tiger here. So he sort of ambles over. I said, Cass, there's a great fright here. Who wants to get out? Yeah, we all want to jump out. So we all jumped out. Now it's just euphoria.
Yeah, the adrenaline's pumping.
Absolutely. And she still circles us. I said, guys, listen, let's just think about this. We probably will never, ever in our lives have an opportunity to get in with a great white. What would we be in it? So I said, well, I'm getting back in again. Who's coming with me? Not a fuck. So one girl, Cassie DeLange, she says, I'll come with you. So Cassie and I get in. Casey and I jump in. And the others looking at us now. And she was even more interested. Now she's circling us close. Like her dorsal was so far out, like just our heads in the water. And the dorsal would skew our heads. And us in the boat would go, fuck, have they been eaten? I spent another 15 minutes with her. When am I going to get that chance again? She was chilled. She wasn't going to eat us. Yes, us.
Flip, what a story.
No, it's just, those are the moments in your life when you think, I have to do this. I can't not do it. I'm going to live. If I'm on my deathbed and I think, fuck, I wish I'd done that. I don't want to have any, I wish I had. I'm going to try. If I get eaten, I said to a mate of mine, he's a shark researcher for oceanographic research, Ryan Daly. I said, Ryan, my outgoing wish is that a great white breaches and it's got me in its mouth and I've got my camera and you get the shot. Just get the fucking shot, Ryan, all right? So that's what we're going to do. When I'm done, get the shot. I can see it. I'm hanging out his mouth like this. Ryan, get the fucking shot. Anyway. Yeah.
Have you been to the jungle?
I have.
Which jungles have you been to?
Up in northern Angola.
Yeah.
Into Gabon.
Yeah.
So Nats and I knew a guy who was doing law enforcement in Gabon. We'd filmed there. So I get Oliver Wynand. And he's South African, Burki. Like, it takes no shit. Anyway, I say, Wynand, listen, man, the largest rookery of leatherback turtles in the world is in Gabon, which is rookery is the what do you call it? Like the term that you use for like a pod of dolphins. It's a rookery of turtles.
Collective.
Yes, the collective noun. That's what I was looking for. Anyway, so Wynand, can I come up and just see what the guys are doing, man? I just want to see. He says, yeah. So then I have this brainwave, and I think, fuck it. Nats is a researcher. I showed her first leatherback, and she's now doing a PhD in turtles. I phone Nats, and I say, Nats, you want to come to Gabon? Yeah. On. So we go and spend a month there. And it was, I mean, thick jungle. But it's like trees. It is crazy stuff. Thick jungle. There were some turtle researchers, and they knew some of the little paths and stuff. So I would just walk. We'd say, "Hey man, let's just go into the jungle and look for." There was western lowland gorillas. We'd go and look for those bush hogs, the buffalo, the elephant. So we wumble around there, you know. So yeah, I had been in the jungle.
Jeez. In your travels, everywhere, jungles, oceans, deserts, townships.
Yes.
Is there anything you've learnt about the human race, about us, in contrast when you compare us to your exposure into the natural world?
Yes. The less material goods you have, the kinder people are. Think about that.
Is that your experience?
The less you have, the more compassionate and kinder you are.
Why do you think that is in your experience?
Because America has conditioned us to accumulate and to consume. And it's about how much money have I got? How much money can I spend? Fuck it. The wealth is in the experience, not on the pieces of paper with a number and a face on it.
Okay, but to play devil's advocate, to get experiences costs money.
Yes.
So how do you get the experience if you don't have money?
You can volunteer for it. You can say, I will do it for nothing. I don't want to get paid to do that. You might have a job that pays some money, like my sardine run will pay me. I'm going to Nato, Angola, I will guide. They'll pay me. It's that balance. I think people lose the balance of experience and accumulation of
material
goods.
things,
Yeah.
Consuming.
Yeah.
So we've become too big on the consumption side,
Yes.
less on the experience side.
Yeah. And there is a trend, there's a move now in the tourism world, because I've been involved in tourism for many years. There's a move for experiential tourism now, rather than let's go and take a break and go and lie on a beach in Mauritius.
Yes.
People want to do things that enhance their life, their spiritual connect, rather than just slobbing and spending money.
Yeah, that's interesting that you say that. I've got a friend of mine who's doing that now as well. The brand is called Carbon Conscious,
Great brand, great name. Great name.
And it's all about that. It's about experiences, mindfulness in terms of the impact that consumers have on the environment, and being more aware of the decisions that you make as a consumer and how that affects everything. To what ends up floating past you when you're going for a swim on a Sunday morning, on the beachfront. And yeah, I completely agree with that trend.
And there's a rubbish dump, it's a rubbish dump outside Devlin, in the outskirts of Soweto. And I go there. And you know, I don't know if you get it in Durban so much, but you get those guys, they push those trolleys and they collect plastic.
Yeah.
So the guys do that. And I did a little docky there. 95% of them are from Lesotho, because there's no industry in Lesotho. There's no fucking way to make money there. So they come to Joburg and to other places, and they collect this PPT and PPC, I think they call it, PET, something like that. The different density of plastic. The Coke bottles and that kind of plastic is the harder density one. The softer plastic, washing basins, is a softer plastic. And these guys make between 4,000 and 8,000 rand a month collecting plastic. And I say to them, why do you guys do it? You say, because you South Africans are lazy. You don't want to do this. And I took that video. There are piles of, it's probably 3 rugby fields of just plastic. Each guys have collected their plastic, they squash them, and they put a pile. And then a South African will come and they'll buy it and they'll macerate it, and then they bale it and they send it to China or wherever they're going to recycle it, or they're going to use plastic again. But the point is that is going to be with us forever. So, you know Sarah Ferguson?
She came on the podcast.
Yeah, so Sarah, so I paddled with Sarah. She swam, I paddled next to her.
Really, yeah?
Yeah. So,
hectic.
So, and we would paddle along and you would see the odd bit of plastic, And as you came closer to shore, when you're out deep, now off PE, we were 80 kilometers offshore, trying to keep in the Agulhas current. But here at KZN, you're much closer because the Agulhas current is much closer to the continental shelf and to the land. And so that's what Sarah's whole drive was. It's about this plastic awareness. And so I would paddle, and my role was to tell her where she's going. You know, I'd paddle along and I'd move my head this way, and then I'd sing her country music songs just to make her fucking swim further away so she couldn't hear me sing. But I'd sing like a 3-line, I'd go over and over. And she sometimes said, because as she turns it, she see her eyes roll in the head. Like, we had fun, we had fun. Anyway, so, and that was the whole drive. So I took her she came on the sardine run with me probably 4 or 5 years ago. And so what I do is I'm getting to edge. My life, I can see the end of my life. You still got a much further road. I'm running out of road. So what I try and do is every year I try and get a marine biologist or someone who's involved in the marine environment to come on the sardine run for Mahala. Just come along, because you're going to be the custodians. You're going to be carrying the flame. I've had my day. And so I invited Sarah to come, and I remember there was this current line, and we had a place called Bolompo, and there's all these big great frights there. There's lots of sharks and stuff there, but it was just plastic. The current line the wind had pushed the plastic, and it was on this current line. And the sardines are now feeding on this current line, because this is where the the plankton is, but there's also microplastics. And I see Sarah, I can see it in my head. She dives down and she just looks, and I can just see the agony in her eyes, just going, fuck. These things are feeding on this. These gannets diving down, they eating bits of plastic. It's sad. I can see it. And so I'm very grateful to have experienced Sarah's drive of this awareness of plastic. I don't think we're ever going to get rid of it. We have to just heighten our awareness and see if we can recycle, use less of it, etc., etc. But it's such a convenience. Think before we had plastic.
Yeah, it is convenient. That's the thing.
What in 1930s we didn't have plastic yet. You must think about packaging, anything. It was
glass Coke bottles.
Yeah, well, that's it.
Glass milk bottles.
They couldn't make rifles out of plastic. Nowadays you get an M16 made of plastic. It's got some metal parts, but the stock, the hand grip, all plastic, petrochemical. So I've got grandchildren. I don't know what they're going to see in the ocean. I've got videos of the stuff of the fish I've caught and the stuff I've seen on the sardine run. I hope that when they are my age, they'll at least be able to say, it's the same, but deep down I think they're going to look at it and say, shit, is that what Granddad used to see? Because there's nothing left.
Yeah.
And that's very, very sad for me.
Yeah. But we live in hope, eh? People
Absolutely.
like yourself and the rest of the communities to
Yes.
take action. And the responsibility always comes back to the individual.
Yes.
You know, it is, it's our responsibility as civilians to, for example, make a decision between or something as simple as ordering a still water in a glass bottle as opposed to a plastic bottle. You know, all of these small things that will eventually make a difference.
That ripple effect.
Yeah.
It's your ripple. How much can you affect it?
And then try to hold other people in your immediate circle accountable.
Yeah, well.
And it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show, and an adventure and a wild and a free spirit. And you've inspired me to also take the jump and make a plan afterwards. So thank you for being on the show. It's been great, man.
An absolute pleasure. Thank you. Thanks.
Not so fast. It is such a cool feeling when I see that Spotify subscribers number increase on the weekly, when I see the number of people listening to the episodes going up, and it really makes a huge difference. Have you ever done something and you feel so good when you get rewarded by some positive feedback and you really feel like you're making a difference? That's what it means to me, and that's how I feel. And it goes a long way if you like the show, share it, and subscribe it. Thank you humbly, and I'll see you next week.